hit the string and knock the camera down or break the thing, or he couldn't get it. Leland Stanford was being pestered by his rancher friends. Are you gonna do this or not? Are we gonna finish this bet or not? So this is where the railroad comes in again. Now Leland Stanford, remember, is part of the railroad, so he hires this guy named John D. Isaacs. He was with the, I forgot, the Oregon or Washington Railroad, I forgot exactly. And he brings him down here. He's an electrical engineer with the railroad. Electrical engineer, right? So he puts electrical tripping systems on Muybridge cameras, and it works perfectly. And this is the result. So then what Muybridge did was to put these images, these are birds, but he would put the images of the horses there, and he made a machine called the Zoopraxiscope, and you look through a little peep thing, you turn the thing, and there's the horses running, moving pictures for the first time. This is around 1879, 1878 now, and we have moving pictures. Not only was Ed Weird celebrated for this, he went to England, back to England, and he was like knighted there, and he created better Zoopraxiscopes, and then they wanted to project them, and this is really the beginnings of motion pictures. So it all relates to of course, the railroads. Now, when the studio started in the turn of the century, that would be about 1906, 1907. By 1908, this is Billy Bitzer here. He was a famous cameraman. And already, this is 1898, excuse me, not 1908, 1898. They already had cameras because of Thomas Eastman, Thomas Edison, of course, with the Black Maria, and all of this, all the development of motion pictures in the late 19th century. And the first thing they did, what did they do? They put the camera on the front of a locomotive. Why? Movement. They didn't do it on a wagon. I mean, it didn't work. It bumped around too much, and you don't get the front of the camera right on the front of a horse. It's impossible. So the trains use it. So just imagine you're in the peep show, and you're watching a train coming into the station, and the camera is on the front, so you see coming into the station. Then they put the camera on the platform, and so people were ducking when the train comes right at them. Now in 1903, there it is, 1903, Edison did the first narrative film called The Great Train Robbery. It was a narrative, meaning it was a story, because before that, Biograph and Edison were doing short films like The Kiss. And also Billy Wilder was inspired by a famous Edison film in 1904, in which a lady and her husband are walking down the street in New York City, and she walks over the grate of the subway, and her dress blows up. Remember, in the 7-Year Itch? That was already in 1904. Edison already did it. It was a sensation in 1904 when her dress blows up. 1904, a woman's dress blowing up is like, oh my God. There were no censors then. So anyway, this is the Great Train Robbery, and the train is, of course, the star. So this led eventually to slowly, in New York, all the studios, which were centered in Manhattan and then into Fort Lee, New Jersey. And we just opened a new museum in Fort Lee, New Jersey on the history of the studios. All the studios were in Fort Lee. If you don't know where that is, that's right across from the George Washington Bridge, right from Manhattan, and that's where all the studios used to be. And then they slowly moved west. Why did they move west? Well, I put this picture in because, look at that, that's Chatsworth, that's the west. And you see with the train in here, and they're filming here, I mean, how more picturesque can you get? So then the press got a hold of this. I know you can't see it too much, but it says here, to the east, and it says to Los Angeles. To the east, nobody is going to the east. They're all coming to the west. They're all stuffed into this train, and it says, as I live, there's grass. Yes, don't it look good? Got a match, Al? Sure thing. I don't know why they put that. Yes, I hadn't thought of that. They'll be going to use it for shipping these oranges east. This is the building, of course, of the railroads coming in and out of Southern California, Los Angeles, because this was the citrus capital, remember, at the time. in the late 19th century. We had a lot of agriculture, but citrus was the big deal in Los Angeles area, Southern California. And the weather, perfect weather all the time. Look outside right now. Now this is Hollywood in 1896. And you can see it's citrus groves, fields, the Hollywood Hills right here. Cahuenga Pass is probably right here. Yeah, nothing was there. Nothing was in Hollywood at this time. Now, early on, the studios came out west using the railroads. They came out west with their equipment and their people. Everybody took the railroad coming out. And Universal in 1912, when they first came out, they came out by train. This is when they were going to open the new Universal City. They opened 3 times, Universal City. One time was where Forest Lawn is today, Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills. That was the first Universal City. And then no, that was only 2. Then the second one was they had to move from there to where Lancashire Boulevard is, because the people that owned the Providencia Rancho, which was that area there, wouldn't sell. So they had to move the studio to Lancashire in 1914 and opened in 1915. So this shot here showing you all of the exhibitors from all around the United States coming by train to Los Angeles, and they put a big banner on the front. We are on our way to Universal City, California, where Universal moving pictures are made. Now, when these early studios, remember I showed you that shot of Hollywood 1910. The first major company to come out was the Biograph Company to Hollywood, and with D.W. Griffith was their director, that's him right there. And they needed a studio at first when they came by train, remember, to the Santa Fe station and the Metropolitan station in downtown LA. They came to figure out where we're going to do this. So would you believe that the railroad and the Pacific Electric car barns, and they had these big car barn areas where they would store the trolley cars and everything? Well, guess what? Biograph rented a section of the car barns, Pacific Electric car barns, at Pico and Georgia Street, which is where the LA Convention Center is today. So that is one of the first studios in LA, right by the car barns. Now, in these car barns, they had these, of course, trolley cars at the time, Pacific Electric trolley cars. So they decided to use them on site. So here's Joe Rock, who I happen to know, where I got this picture from, and his partner, Montgomery and Rock Comedies. And they actually used car barns to actually film all the static scenes, pretending that it's moving, and they did all this. So the Pacific Electric was also involved in the early days of the film industry. And of course, the trains were running throughout the San Fernando Valley. And this is Ruth Rowland, one of the first Wonder Women. Yeah, we have Wonder Women today, Angelina Jolie, and all the other ones doing all these pictures, they're playing spies and archaeologists and whatever they're doing. But remember that they're the beating up the men and all this kind of stuff that we see nowadays, right? Oh, they did that already. Ruth Rowland was part of 18 superwomen of the early teens. Ruth Rowland, Helen Holmes, Helen Gibson, Florence Lawrence, and others. Texas Guinan, and all of them were horsewomen. They drove race cars, actually had their own planes. Ruth Rowland actually had her own airplane right after World War I. So they made films relating to all this with real stunts. Can you imagine? There was no CG in those days. A very little CG. They had to actually jump off the train. And look at this shot. Here's the whole camera crew stuffed on this top of the car. They're shooting. Look, this guy's holding the camera. I don't see any cabling or anything holding them on. And you know how far of a drop that is down from the top down. It's like 18 feet. I mean, it's a serious deal. And here she is, balancing herself. Now, usually the train is moving slowly, and they under-crank the camera a little bit so it looks like they're going faster, but they're still moving. This is still dangerous. But they were very popular films. Now, here's downtown LA in 1900. Edison Film Company came here in 1898 and filmed a film called Spring Street, Los Angeles. This is actually a frame from the film. Let's It's not 1900, it's 1898 actually. And all of this, all of this, can you imagine, is moving. All the trolleys are moving, everything's moving. So we see already trolleys are a big deal in downtown LA in the 19th century, end of the 19th, but there is a car. Look at that, there's an actual car right there. If you want to call it a car.
Horseless carriage.
All right, so this is a shot of the Los Angeles Depot in 1900, Alameda and Commercial Streets, right down where we're talking, right where Philippe's is. That's exactly where it is. So basically, we explain about the fierce competition in the railroads, the Southern Pacific, Santa Fe, Los Angeles and Salt Lake, formerly the Union Pacific, etc. Everybody, the railroads are coming here like mad. And thus, the film industry not only using them, as I said, to come, using them for transportation, using them in the films. So in later years, from 1898 all the way up to now, they were using the existing stations all around Southern California as a film location. I picked this one because this is the new Pasadena station. It was an older one. This is the one, it's now, I forgot the name of the restaurant. It's a really good restaurant. It's always crowded though. What is it?
Le Grand George.
That's it, that's it. So it's a nice restaurant, but always crowded. Fine. But the point is that if you look at, come out the doorway here, the metro still, people getting on and off like nothing has changed. A little bit. Now, starting early on, about 1915, a moving picture world, it was announced that Southern California was the mecca of the motion picture. There were already 30 studios in LA by 1915. By the way, everybody came by train. Okay, keep that in mind. So they started location departments. And this is one of them. This guy is looking at, he's looking at the Glendale Grand Central Terminal, 1938. And so they went out and shot everything. They shot the whole West. They went everywhere and shot every village, every building, just every train station, everywhere, and created files at the studio. So he would go through these files, like he's looking now at the airfield and figuring out where they're going to shoot the film. And that's how they did that. This guy is looking at Paramount 1940. He's looking at desert landscapes in this book. And they used, of course, the existing tunnels. This is the Santa Susana Tunnel, which is still there, still being used. And that's Abbott and Costello running in front of the train, I might add. So you understand now, people around the world are watching these films, and they're seeing the use of trains all the time in the films. And sometimes they even advertise the film using the what rail company they used, et cetera, et cetera. This is Abbott and Costello meet the Keystone Cops in 1954.
Is that where they filmed White Heat too, the robbery?
Yes, yes, that's right. That tunnel's been used a lot over the years. This is, well, which one is this? Northridge Station, Southern Pacific coming in for Tell It To Them Sweeney, starring George Bancroft and Chester Conklin. This is LeGrand with Harold Lloyd, movie crazy, in which he comes to Hollywood to get into films and already runs into trouble at LeGrand Station. And that's Harold Lloyd right there on the floor. I don't remember why he fell down, but anyway. By the way, Harold Lloyd films are wonderful. You must see it. The best one I love it the most is
Safety Last?
the one with he used the Pacific Electric trolley cars.
Oh.
It just won't come to me right now. I think I have a picture. We'll see. That's the old Pasadena station. It was an old brick station built in the 19th century, which was replaced by the one you just saw. And you see how they're using it as backdrops. Even this Santa Fe station, that's Harry Langdon here. But look at that. This guy's supposed to drop his chest onto him, and he's holding his little bag. How is he going to catch that? That's why it's funny. And of course, Union Station used constantly because it's such a great and beautiful place. Why not? So this shot was taken by one of the location companies, never been published, showing you the old cars and everything. So I used to work in the research libraries at all the studios for many years. And in the 80s, the studios were getting rid of their research libraries. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
So my boss said, you know, grab what you can. We don't know if we're going to be here. And I grabbed everything on railroading, of course, everything on Los Angeles, Southern California history, the studios, of course, locations, everything I could. And in 1970, Columbia was moving from their studio in Hollywood, Gower and Sunset, to Warner Brothers to create the Burbank Studios. And I was at the American Film Institute at the time, and a woman called us up and was very upset. She says, we have to move off the lot in 2 weeks, and they told me I cannot bring the photo collection, they're gonna dump it.
Oh my God.
800,000 photos and negatives.
Oh my God.
So they tried, she called the Academy, and nobody wanted such a volume of stuff. So we took it, and 2 conditions: that I would go get it and arrange for it, and I would catalog it. I didn't know how to do that. We had a librarian, we hired a librarian at the American Film Institute to help me, and I did do it. It took 2 years to do it. But that's how I became immersed in the history of Los Angeles. So get this, now we have a sidebar now. 4 months ago, I didn't know this, that an art director heard that the research library and the location files were being thrown away also at Columbia at the time I was saving the photo library. I didn't think about the research library at the time. Well, he took out 35 file cabinets of locations of California. Well, actually he had Washington, D.C., but San Francisco, Los Angeles, great stuff, great train station stuff from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I got the collection, and I've been going through it now. What I don't want is going to be merged with the 20th Century Fox Research Library. But the point is that I now added 10,000 more location stills of Los Angeles, and I just finished yesterday working on, what did I work on yesterday? It was downtown Los Angeles stuff in 1937 to 40. Showing Main Street, Alameda Street. Philippe's is in one of the shots in 1937. Wow, you see what I mean? So that's where a lot of this is coming from. So I formed my own archives in 1971 called Bison Archives. Just look it up. Just Google me or Bison, and you'll see what I've been up to. I've done 40 books, 250 films, and technical advisor and feature films, all using this research that I saved. So if it wasn't for me, I think 100,000, the Academy got for me already 80,000 images. But if it wasn't for me, all that stuff would have been dumped. So it takes collectors, right? People of interest like us to keep it going. Now with miniatures, by the way, I'm a member of your group. Why? Because I visited the old Palm Station, which was moved to Simi Valley. What is it called now, that station?
Santa Susana?
Santa Susana Station.
Yeah.
So I was in there, and some guy was in there, and we were talking, he was from the group. Oh, you must belong. So I joined right then, that was a few years ago. But the point is that in these collections of Bison Archives is the history of the making of films, right? So among that are miniatures. I have incredible files on miniature cities, planes, and trains. So of course they use wonderful miniatures, yes.
It wasn't Palm Station moved to Heritage Park.
It was, Palms, yeah, which one was moved? That was Chatsworth Station. Chatsworth was moved, thank you. I need a little help here. My computer mind is, works so much. So anyway, that's where this picture came from. Okay, let's move up. Now, we have here the Los Angeles Pacific Railway trolley car at Prospect, that's Hollywood Boulevard in those days, and Wilcox Avenue in 1909. LAP operated from downtown LA to the beach. So, meaning that all these trolleys were as you probably have seen the map of the Pacific Electric, it was like a maze of tracks and everything. So you could get out of your house, no matter where you were in Southern California, and step into either a track right in front of you, or a short distance away, you can get a connection, and you can go anywhere. It was amazing, and how that was pulled out of LA by 1968 or whatever. It amazes me what a crime that was. And the excuse was, well, we have to look to the future, we're gonna use buses. And many of the tracks you still see under Santa Monica Boulevard buried under there in places you see where the right-of-ways were. And now they're putting in, right, the subway now and the railway on the same right-of-ways that we had at the Pacific Electric originally, but at an incredible cost, of course. But anyway, that's my political statement for that. All right, so anyway, let's move on. So the movie industry, you see, is coming to Los Angeles, as I said. So this is the very first studio, if you want to call it a studio. It's the very first set built in Los Angeles. And it says here, the Selig Polyscope Company in downtown LA in 1908, behind the Sing Key Laundry on Olive Street, between 7th and 8th Street, the first film studio in Los Angeles. So I worked with the Chinese American Museum, I worked with the Japanese American Museum. So I called my friend Sue Ellen Chang there and said, you know what? The first movie studio was behind a Chinese laundry. So in other words, the Chinese community indirectly is in the beginning of the film industry in LA. She flipped. It's now in their museum, of course. But I have 3 more pictures, the only pictures that exist of this studio downtown. Now, remember that shot I showed you of the car barn with D.W. Griffith standing there directing? Well, this is the studio. This is the car barns at Pico and Georgia Street. There's one of the big barns in here. And you can see these are tents, these are stages with diffusing, what do you call them, muslin sheets over the top. So when the light comes in, it takes all the shadows off the faces. You don't need particular lighting for this. So right downtown, right here, this is Georgia Street right here, and Pico is right around here somewhere. But look at this, they're using part of the whole car barn. There's the trolleys over here in storage, over here on this side. So they use about half of the whole damn place for a movie studio. Nobody knows this. Now here we go. Because of the popularity of using trains in films, in 1914, the Kalem Company of Chicago decided to form a company called Signal Film Company, right? And what did they do? They had Helen Holmes and Helen Gibson, 2 superstar stunt women, to star in a series of serials, all relating to railroading. But they're action pictures, really great. So they use their equestrian skills. Here is Helen, is this Gibson or Holmes? Helen Holmes on a horse, because many a time she's chasing the train and she's doing a transfer from the horse to the train, or from the train to the, no, it's hard to do the horse. And it's impossible. No, from the horse to the train all the time. And of course, here she is hanging here. That's Helen Gibson. Now, Helen Holmes and Helen Gibson, they were friends, but in those days, you burn out quickly. After 5 years, Helen Holmes could not do it anymore. She got hurt real bad. I have a picture of her with a cast on her leg, and she couldn't do it. So Helen Gibson took over for her. So that's why it's still called the Adventures of Helen, right? So it's still the same character, different women. And this is the kind of stuff they did. I mean, look at this. She's hanging up here as the train is going. She's going to drop down. Very dangerous. Even if the train is going slow, it's still that you can do your ankle easily. Now, the second film company to come to California was the Bison Film Company. I named my archive after this company, the Bison Company. It was the second one to come in 1909, and it starred, well, the stars were, the writers and producers as well, was Princess Redwing, an Alagala Sioux Indian, and her husband, James Youngdeer. And they were, this guy is Charles Bauman of the New York Motion Picture Film Company, which hired them and created the Bison Film Company. They started making their films on Staten Island, but that's not the West. So they went out west, here to Los Angeles, and they used the Providencia Rancho as their western backdrop, which is, I told you, Hollywood Hills Forest Lawn, which later became known as Alasky Ranch, and I'll explain that in a minute. But anyway, the connection to railroading is, first of all, they came out by railroad. They settled in a studio right on a Pacific car line in Edendale, if you know where that is, north Los Angeles, where the 2 freeway, the Glendale Freeway, comes into Glendale Boulevard. That was all studios there. There were 10 of them there originally in the early teens, before they moved to Hollywood. And they came there and they used the Pacific Electric to go wherever they needed, and a truck too, they had a truck. But this is the fun part. In 1909, the Chamber of Commerce of California and Los Angeles and of California, Los Angeles, were trying to publicize William Mulholland and the new building of the aqueduct in 1905. 1905, William Mulholland built the, I forgot what the name of the rail line was, but it's the Owens Valley line that came from, it didn't go up to Reno yet. It was just where the Owens Lake is. They had a rail line there that merged in with the Mojave Junction, which went up to Bakersfield, which became, I forgot what it was called.
Java?
It was the one that went up to Reno. What was that? It was
Carson in Colorado?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe, they were
Yeah,
intertwined with somebody
it's
else too.
complicated. They pulled out that wonderful line, by the way, which you merged from Mojave up to Reno in 1965 or 6. They had beautiful Southern Pacific cars, and I have colored pictures. They're just beautiful. How they could pull it out? Because they said there's not enough commerce going to Reno. Oh, come on. They could have mothballed it a little bit until better times, but to rip out all the tracks and everything, it just kills me. So when you drive up to Owens Valley on Highway 395, one of the great highways to go on, you can still see where the rail line was, the little bridges, and then it leads up to the Laws Railway Museum. Laws is a little town next to Bishop. It's a wonderful railway museum. They're selling my book there, of course. And they have a western town there. They have great trains up there. And it is just one of those hidden railway museums. Now, since I did this book for the Los Angeles Heritage Railway Foundation, I've been visiting all the railroad museums in California. There's a lot of them. And of course, I grew up around Travel Town. Many of you might know Travel Town. And I used to have my birthday parties on the trains. So I've been indoctrinated, and I rode all the miniature railways in Griffith Park. Remember, we had 2 of them. We had 2. One is closed now. There's still one at Travel Town is still running. The other one is closed. And the Ponyland has been closed because they were attacked because you're not supposed to exploit the ponies. You cannot have children ride the ponies. That's exploitation of the ponies. So they closed the Ponyland down. I mean, it just kills me. Anyway, so the Bison Company was enticed to go to the Owens Valley, to Mount Whitney, in that area of Lone Pine. Why? Because that's the jumping off point for people to visit Mount Whitney for tourism. So Lone Pine was a tiny nothing in those days, so they wanted people to start going there. So the Bison Company went there and filmed the first filming in the Owens Valley in 1909. How do I know this? Because I found in Moving Picture World a picture of them in 1909 by the Lone Pine Station on that stagecoach, the Keeler Stagecoach. Keeler was a town on the Owens Lake, which used to be a lake. By the way, last year there was water in the lake for the first time in who knows when. And that stagecoach would run all around there, and they actually used the stagecoach in their early films. So here we have the connection of water, Mulholland, the Bison Film Company, railroading. I mean, it's always connecting with me. Now this is Edendale, and this is the Selig Polyscope Company, the first permanently built studio in LA, right on the Pacific Electric. There it is, Edendale and SP Station, Sun Pacific Station, Pacific Electric, number 227. And they run right here. See the tracks right here? Well, they built the studio right there, and it's built and it's designed as the San Gabriel Mission. That's the San Gabriel Mission. Why? Because of Charles Lummis. Charles Lummis made a deal with Colonel Selig that when they would shoot on mission properties or adobes or any, they would pay a fee. A filming fee, the first filming fees, all connected to the restoration of the missions for tourism, relating to the railroad, movies, it's all connected. Thank you, Helen Hunt Jackson again. Now the Bison Company was located in Edendale, as I said, on Glendale Boulevard here. In 1912, they were moved to Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica, to where Santa Ynez Canyon is where Gladstone's for Fish is. You all know where Gladstone's is. That was all the Bison studio in 1911. But in 1912, the New York Motion Picture Company had another company that they brought out, took over the studio. It was the Mack Sennett Keystone Comedy Company. They were the sister company to Bison, would you believe, with Charlie Chaplin, Roscoe Arbuckle, Mabel Normand, and all those famous people. And this is a rear shot of Edendale, all rural, all horses, little horse ranches everywhere. Now in East Hollywood, just a hop, skip, and jump away, we have D.W. Griffith finally building a proper studio. And this is the studio here, the Triangle Griffith Studio, called the Fine Art Studio. This is Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard where they meet. The Vista Theater is right on this corner. This is a shot showing you where the Vista Theater is today and the famous Intolerance sets of D.W. Griffith of 1916, which stood 125 feet tall. That's 125 feet tall of Babylon. And this is what that looked like. And those are real people up here. See the scale? This is the first monster epic film made in Los Angeles, which brought out more tourism, of course, to Los Angeles, by train, of course. Remember, nobody's flying yet. It's all trains. Everything is trains. Now, other studios settled in all around Hollywood, and here we have Western Avenue and Sunset Boulevard. There's the Target store right on the corner. So, I know, I tried.
I don't know where that is. Wow.
But this is where Fox Studio was until 1971, when they finally sold the property and became all these, stores.
Wow, interesting.
But trolley lines were running down Sunset Boulevard, Western Avenue, of course, connecting all of this. Now, the first studio built in Hollywood at Gower and Sunset on a Pacific
There
Electric
before.
line. This is the Christie Nestor Film Company, the beginning of Universal Studios, before they moved to the Valley in 1911. And this corner, that's Al Christie.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can see this is what the studio later looked like in 1929, before it was demolished to bring in Columbia Square. CBS, Columbia Square at Gower and Sunset, which Hollywood Heritage, which I'm one of the founders of, we saved it. Now I have to plug right now, since I mentioned Hollywood Heritage, we run the Hollywood Heritage Museum across from the Hollywood Bowl. And basically it's an old 1901 horse barn at Selma and Vine Street originally, where Cecil B. DeMille came by train from New York to Los Angeles to make the first feature film Western in Hollywood called The Squaw Man, starring Dustin Farnham and Princess Redwing of the Bison Film Company. She's known as the first Native American star in movies. Next. This is an aerial shot showing Gower and Sunset. Here's Sunset, and here's Gower. And this is the Lasky Studio, which is where the barn was at Selma and Vine, which became Paramount Studios. See how the connection goes. But this is the Nestor Company, which became Christie Studios, which became Columbia Square. And this became Columbia Studios, where a lot of these photos, thank goodness, were not lost. This is the studio across the street. This is the original site of Universal in 1911, before they moved to the Valley. And this is Gower Street right here and Sunset right there. You can see a little bit of it. Columbia Studios will later be across the street over there. Look how they built the sets. They were outdoor. They didn't have sound at the time. The lighting would be controlled with diffusion above them. And this is the early days of silent filmmaking. This is the beginning of the film industry in LA. This is Columbia Studios at Gower and Sunset. And this is the reason I put this in. These are the Gower Gulch Cowboys. They were very famous with the beginnings of the Western film. Remember, all the companies coming out in the early days made Westerns. Everybody made Westerns because they were in the West. And I'm now discovering a lot. I'm with the Lone Pine Museum. I'm with the Autry Museum, of course, because I branched out, being a researcher, I branched out to every aspect of the beginnings of the film industry and how they make them to this day. And Fox just hired me recently because Disney purchased all the intellectual property of Fox, taking all the history off the lot. So they brought me in to bring all the history back on the lot. I have a great historical collection of Fox history, as you saw a little bit of. So this is the Lasky Company. This is the Squaw-Man people. This is Princess Red Wing right there, member of the Bison Company. And that's Noble Johnson right there. He started in 1917, the first black company in LA called the Lincoln Motion Picture Company. But Noble Johnson he was in about 500 films because his best friend, Lon Chaney, they are the ones that developed the early makeup for films. But nobody remembers Noble Johnson. They remember Lon Chaney because of The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Phantom of the Opera. I mean, unfortunately, Noble Johnson's big claim to fame, he was the king of Skull Island in King Kong. But he was in makeup. You don't even recognize him. So, of course, you didn't recognize Lon Chaney either with that makeup on. So they settled in that old barn I just told you about. That's the old Lasky barn in Selma and Vine. It's now a big building here. I just shot pictures of it a few days ago. But this is where the early Hollywood studios are starting to congregate, right in the heart of Hollywood. Now, they all developed, as you can see here in later years, this is Paramount and RKO Studio. This is Gower and Melrose. So Gower, way up here in Sunset Studios, Gower and Melrose Studios, and all the way west, into West Hollywood, which we're gonna get to.
This is
Get
fun.
this is the back lot of Universal when they finally moved to that new location I told you at Lancashire. This is Barham Boulevard right here.
Wow.
This is Mount Hollywood, and right behind, right there, is the Hollywood sign, right on the other side. But this is the rural nature of where the studios went, the real West. This is an outdoor stage, and right here are fronts of an old Western town. But they went on location to the real Western towns. So I'm a docent at Bodie, if you know where that is. That's up by Mammoth and Mona Lake. And only a third of the town exists at Bodie. But the Universal sent William Wyler up there in 1929 to do a film called Hell's Heroes. He filmed there. There's 600 people still living in Bodie. It's a great place, very remote, silver and gold. And in 1932, a kid burnt down 2/3 of the town by accident.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, That family was forced to leave, I can tell you that. But anyway, this is the point, is that the motion picture exists, Hell's Heroes, you can see it on YouTube. And the whole town exists, so I did frame enlargements from the film, and I have a tent there at Bodie, and people can see that this town had 4,000 buildings. There were thousands of people who used to live there, and so it gives you an idea, because now it's a real ghost town. Now this is the first Universal tour in 1915. This is actually 1916 with Harry Carey. Harry Carey's son, Dobie Carey, was in many films like The Searchers and all those films. But this is an outdoor scene at Universal with the actual tour. They could look down and actually yell at them on the stage. Go, Harry! They couldn't do that anymore.
No.
That's Universal as it grew. Now, at the Cahuenga Pass, in 1913, is when Pacific Electric put in the first trolley system from Hollywood Boulevard over the pass to Chandler Station. And at that station there would be which ones went up through Roscoe? Was it Union Pacific, or was it Central Pacific? Southern Pacific. They went up to the Santa Susana Pass.
Southern Pacific.
Southern Pacific. And they went up north the other way, up to Mojave. So the film companies would put all their equipment on the trolley cars, go over the Cahuenga Pass, transfer to a real train, which would take them to other parts of California. And that's how the Bison Company did it early on. Okay, this is West Hollywood. This is the Pickford Fairbanks Studio in 1922. This is the sets for Robin Hood of Douglas Fairbanks. This is La Brea and Santa Monica, and look at the double tracks. This was a major thoroughfare, Route 66, which is Santa Monica. Barney's Beanery was a roadhouse for the railroad people, and this was a railroad town because it all went into Sherman. the Sherman Yards in Sherman, California, of Moses Sherman. Railroad related again. And it's Sherman Yards. And Sherman Yards is today the sheriff's station, the Blue Whale there, the Pacific Design Center, etc. But I grew up in West Hollywood. I remember, I saw the last train that went on Santa Monica Boulevard, 1965. Remember, I was 5 years old during this time. Keep that in mind. And but the studios, MGM took this shot, their location department, and guess what? I have incredible coverage now of Sherman Station, which nobody has because MGM took it all in 1937. You see what I mean? It's a treasure trove. Holy Grail stuff. Now the trolley cars, remember, went all the way from downtown, down Santa Monica Boulevard, that's Santa Monica Boulevard, right through Beverly Hills, right into Santa Monica, and the Westwood development started in 1923. It was the Wolfskill Ranch. Before that was the Buenos Aires Ranch, Rancho Buenos Aires. And all of this land was going to be developed by the Jans Real Estate Company into Westwood Development, okay? So the first first company to purchase the largest tract of land in Westwood Development was Fox. And they started out with the Fox Hills Ranch, which is a little ranch here, which they fill with sets. Then they built the first permanently built sound studio in California in 1928. And then they expanded out into the Westwood Municipal Golf Course, which this was. This is Beverly Hills, that's Beverly High right there. So you have an orientation. This is Homey Hills and the Los Angeles Country Club. And there's Beverly Hills and El Rodeo School right there, which has just been restored. I just drove by a few minutes ago. So you understand that the Pacific Electric, Railroad, all connected to the development of Los Angeles, obviously. Los Angeles is all real estate history. It's all agricultural, real estate, movies, and railroading history. That's what it all is, really, when it comes down to it. Now, Culver City was another big junction on Culver Boulevard. We have the trolleys and trains going down here, double tracks. So at MGM, many studios needed trains, so they put spurs into their back lots so they could just roll some trains in and use them, and then roll them back out again. Even our gang had their own locomotive. I wish you could see this clearly, but this is a handmade locomotive made of wood. And the Hell Roach Special Effects Department, if you watch our games, which are now on MeTV today, I'm now catching up on all of them, and Laurel and Hardy films and all those films, they have the most incredible, how can I put it, department that makes these strange looking props, thank you. I don't know how to say it. Nearby is the Thomas Ince Studio in Culver City on Washington Boulevard. And it's right on Washington and Ince Boulevard. It's today the Culver Studio. That became the Archaeopathe Studio, which later was rented by David O. Selznick. We're going with the Windward Shot. And King Kong. And Citizen Kane. Now the trolleys, as you know, are going down Santa Monica all the way to the beach, right? Well, this is where the Bison Company went. I told you about where Gladstone's is. Became the Innsville.
It's not far.
There's the Santa Monica Bay. Pacific Coast Highway's here. Gladstone is right over here. And this is a Vaughn's Market now or something. But this was all a Western studio where the Miller Brothers 101 Wild West show, which was wintering in Venice, California at the time, 1910, would come there, and by 1911 we're making films. The Miller Brothers were like a sister company to Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. So we're now getting all the Wild West shows and the circuses involved. Because as you know very well, the circus would never have survived if it wasn't for railroads, right? They put everything on them. See the greatest show ever told, greatest show
Story.
On Earth.
No, not story. It's
Barnum
the
and
Mills
Bailey's.
thing. Greatest,
Greatest show on earth.
greatest show on earth, thank you.
Mm.
And in there, it's all railroad related. They actually have a railroad crash in there, and animals are killed and all that. I mean, which was typical of the history of railroading and the circuses. So the Wild West shows were considered circuses as well. And matter of fact, Barnum and Bailey actually partnered up with Buffalo Bill and the Pawnee Bill and the Miller Brothers at times to have joint shows. Now, they use the railroads and the locomotives as stars. This is the 2246, appeared in the Fast Mail, which is about railroading, 1922. And you can see here in my book, I talk about how they rented trains for use on Southern Pacific locations, which included train stations and locations. They had a contract with Southern Pacific, and they used it to the hilt. Now, this is the one I wanted to show you. This is the Pacific Electric crushing one of the Howell Road Studios collapsible cars. They were brilliant, that department, I must say. So this is right by USC. And this is, I have it, Hoover Street. It's right on Hoover by USC is where they shot this. And it's an incredible scene in which they're stalled on the tracks and the two cars just collapse them. Now the Silver Streak, when it came out, was it out of Chicago, Silver Streak?
Mm.
Yeah.
Pioneers of-
Right? Well, they decided to make a film about it, publicize it, called Silver Streak in 1934. Not the one with Gene Wilder and all, that's a different Silver Streak, okay? This is the real Silver Streak. That is the real one they actually brought out here. And this is Chatsworth Station, and they're filming it, and it is the star of the film, is the Silver Streak. Now, other 19th century trains which were being collected at Railtown, see I wore my Railtown hat today, of Jamestown, and other places which collected the trains, including Leland Stanford, number 1, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. But the point is that this was the making of I have it written there, where is it? Duel in the Sun. And Duel in the Sun with Harry Carey, by the way, remember we just saw him at Universal in 1916. They actually trucked the actual 19th century locomotive and tender up to Lasky Mesa. Lasky Mesa today is near Hidden Hills. It's Calabasas. It's on the north side of the freeway. It's now a Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Park. And they made millions of films there, Charge of the Light Brigade and all kinds of stuff there. So they actually trucked this whole train there, and there's the famous scene when the train comes to the trailhead there, and all the cowboys, and they have a confrontation there at the fence. They actually did all this work. I have pictures of them doing it, bringing it there and putting it down with cranes. They had cranes. Incredible. Look what a beautiful locomotive. It's number 1. It's number 4. Now, this is what the studios did. Howell Road Studio, among others, purchased pieces of trains from the different companies and set them up in stages as a stock unit. So we have this is the Pennsylvania Railroads Broadway Limited with streamlined coaches and locomotives. They were assembled at the studio to be used in Broadway Limited. But look what they did. They got the plans of the interiors, and this is a built interior on a stage. I actually have some of those plans that the railway companies gave to the studios to build this. Look how wonderful this lounge is. We don't have that anymore. Now, studios needed to buy trains, rent trains. This is Paramount. Now, let's see, what did I write here? This is in the sky backing in Paramount Studio, Melrose. Whispering Smith, again, I told you who Whispering Smith was. He was a railroad detective, played by Alan Ladd. The art department created a western town background that featured 2 historic Virginia and Truckee railroads. Now, locomotives, excuse me. So if you go up to Carson City, to the Railroad Museum, you'll see them there. And then you'll go up to Virginia City. They have a couple up there. I'm telling you, and they're in beautiful condition. And it is so fun to see the actual locomotive that was used in these films that I'm so familiar with. This is my favorite shot. This is Virginia and Truckee locomotive number 11. So I was up there just 5 days ago. I was just at Jamestown. But about a year before, I asked some of the guys there, how come there's so much smoke coming out? And he says, because these were converted to oil. Remember, they didn't burn wood anymore, they were oil. So if you put extra oil in, that's what's gonna happen. So it's a special effect. But get this is a film crew here. What if the wind changes?
Slow down.
This is the trials and tribulations of making films on a railroad. Now, Buster Keaton was making a film called Our Hospitality in 1923. But in the film, the whole film surrounds the famous rocket locomotive. The rocket is one of the earliest locomotives ever made. It was in a museum in, I forgot where it is, in the East Coast. And Buster Keaton's art department wanted to borrow it for the film. And they said, no way, you're not gonna borrow it. This is a Smithsonian artifact, you can't borrow it. So they got the plans, they actually had the plans for the original rocket, and they rebuilt it, and they used it in the film. And it's a fantastic showing. The whole film is all centered around the rocket and all the cars and all the people riding it. And they shot this up in Truckee, California. Now this is the best part. Okay, good. This is the best part. For the Iron Horse in 1924, they borrowed actual Leland Stanford's #1 locomotive. It was in a museum in Palo Alto. It wasn't in the museum yet in Sacramento. They borrowed it, trucked it, they put it on a flat car and took it down to Sherman Yards. I found clippings on this, incredible. And then they put it on a flat car and a trolley car, Pacific Electric, took it to Hollywood Boulevard. They had a crane there and they lifted it into the forecourt of the Egyptian Theater. Sid Grauman thought of this, and then they brought out the Arapaho and Indians that were in the film to sit on it in the forecourt with a sign to honor and to exploit the film The Iron Horse. How do you like that for real history and railroad film history? For the meeting of the rails in the Mills Union Pacific, they met at Canoga Park. Now the back lots, the studios had all ranches and back lots. This is one of their, this is a Virginia and Truckee locomotive #5 again at the Archeo Ranch in Encino. They had their own station there. In special effects, that's Harpo Marx. Yes, he's the coupler of it. This is a rear projection. And these are the pieces of trains that they brought to Paramount Studio with, NGM, excuse me, to make the film. Yes.
There's nobody following you, so if you need more time, you've got it.
Oh, perfect. He just told me you have a little more time. We will need it. Because I'm going to show you now a holy grail find. Now you see this incredible film. 2 Los Angeles railway cars and a flat car were chartered for the filming of Goldwyn's The Glorious Fool in 1922. York Boulevard near Occidental College. Now I found this picture at one of the film conventions. You know, I go search everywhere for incredible looking film. Film stills. And about 10 years later, I found that one.
Oh.
It's the point of view. Look at this. That's Richard Dix there. Right there, right? And there he is looking. 10 years later, in a completely different place, I found a companion photo. This is fate. This is no accident. And many of these things have happened when you're really concentrating on the history of everything that's lost history. It seems to be found again. It comes right into my hands. Found. Hot Water. That's the film I couldn't think of with Harold Lloyd. You must see it. It's available. It is the funniest film, probably one, of Harold Lloyd's career. It's using, of course, Pacific Electric trolley car on Hollywood Boulevard. But this is the point why it's so funny. Is that his wife, it's Thanksgiving, his wife says, go and get all the trimmings and a turkey for the dinner. I will prepare it. So he goes out, gets all the trimmings, but he's too late to get a turkey. Everybody bought all the turkeys. So some jerk on the street says, I have a live turkey. He gives him a live turkey. You think his wife's gonna chop its head off and do it? He didn't even think of that. He's taking a live turkey with all the packages, and there's a live turkey, and he's trying to get on a stuffed trolley car. The trolley car is full of people. They're hanging off the side. It is the funniest thing. He gets on, and the turkey is pecking women and men, and it is the funniest thing you ever saw. So you gotta see Hot Water, which features, of course, Pacific Electric cars. Now, all the studios purchased old 19th century horse-drawn trolleys and streetcars from around the world. This is one that was purchased by Universal. These guys, this is the director, Cindy Alcott, and his cameraman, and such. They're just posing on it, you know, joking around. But this was stored on the back lot. Look, this is from the 19th century on New York, Bleecker Street, 9th Avenue. And this is a treasure.
Brooklyn Bridge.
Just rotted there. Can you imagine? It should be in a museum. It's real. It's not built. It's a real one. Paramount purchased another 19th century horse-drawn trolley, restored it beautifully for a Mae West film. There's Mae West actually talking about it in the articles about it. She said, I used to, in the 19th century in New York, I used to ride them, she would say. And here I am in a film, period film, about 1890s, and she's playing here, and she done them wrong, and she's smiling because she hadn't ridden one since she was a child. I mean, it was such a nice story. Now, for the Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I was a technical advisor on it, and they kept asking me, we need to get a trolley car for very important scenes in front of the studio. This is this earlier on was the Desilu Cahuenga studio where I Love Lucy was shot, and Danny Thomas show was shot, and many others, which later was known as the Ren Mar studio when this film was made in when did we make this? I don't remember. I can't even put a date on it.
47.
No, this is the, it's supposed to take place in 47, but we made this in the 80s, I think. So anyway, the point is that we had to make a trolley car. So we did. We found lots of pictures, which I had. I have a great collection of Pacific Electric in color, and they made it. So what we had to do, though, we couldn't put tires on it, because remember, some people put tires on them. So what we did was we with what's that glue? With the epoxy glue, we stuck rails lines down Cahuenga Boulevard, and we ran this on those epoxy rails. And you can still see, I think, a little bit where the epoxy glue was on Cahuenga Boulevard if you go there today. But it's a great scene using this trolley car. Now, remember I told you about MGM, Culver City, and the spur? There's their train station right there. And it ran there, but they had a spur. You can see it going right through a gate and right into the studio. They would back the train right in there. And they had two train stations, one over here and one over here. And RKO Ranch had a spur, and many of the studios, if they were near railroads, they had spurs. Now, finally, the end of this whole thing is the backlots and ranches. This is, again, Chatsworth and the Susanna Pass area. Again, trolley cars, backlot. This is another 19th century trolley car, horse-drawn. That's John Ford there, directing an early Universal picture. Paramount Ranch, I'm the park ranger at Paramount Ranch in Abrua. By the way, we have screenings out there. We're having next one at the Gillette Ranch next weekend, next Sunday. And it's fun to go out there. You have dinner out there and then see a film Under the Stars at the Gillette Ranch, which is right across from the Fox Ranch off of Mulholland Boulevard and Canaan Road, and no, not Canaan, Las Virgenes Road. Yep. Here, that's what I wanted to show you. This is the RKO Ranch, and there is the train there. And the spur, the Southern Pacific was right over here somewhere, and they would just bring the train right in. And there it is. There's one of the other train stations. Now the whole end of this is publicity. Now this is the dancing girls from 42nd Street, Warner Brothers, in 1933, and this looks like a big boy.
No.
What is it? It's giant.
It's big, but.
Okay, good, very good. Just throwing that out there. I was there, by the way, we had a booth, the LARF had a booth at the Union Station for the big boy when he came into town. Was that last year?
Oh, when it came when people got to ride on it?
Yeah.
That was about 6 years ago.
No, they didn't ride on it. It came into Union Station, they could go on the
They
train.
could just look at it.
Yeah, but that was last year, I think. 10,000 people came to Union Station. to see it.
3751 was down there, and.
That was
Santa
it.
Fe locomotive, yeah.
Was that last year?
That was last year.
Good, very good.
Santa Fe,
Very
not the Union Pacific.
What?
For their
It was Santa
anniversary.
Fe, not the Union Pacific.
Yes.
Yeah, Santa Fe.
Whatever it was great to see that train there, I must say. All right, so let's move on. Let's see. So of course, I keep telling you that studios
Wisconsin.
contracted, with all the railway companies for all kinds of publicity. So I'll read this to you. A Pennzoil Oil Products advertisement featuring the Union Pacific Railroad and the Paramount release of Cecil B. DeMille's Union Pacific, 1939. Also an advertisement for the Union, a Santa Fe Super Chief featuring Gloria Swanson, appearing in the film Three for a Bedroom C, featuring scenes aboard the Super Chief passenger train. And there's Gloria smiling. Okay, now, the opening of Union Station, 1939, as I started the whole lecture out telling you it was Chinatown, it was removed. Well, DeMille and Paramount got a great idea. Why not have a dual opening? Opening of Union Station and the film Union Pacific. And they did. 100,000 people showed up downtown on Alameda. On Alameda Street, they ran several trains. They ran the 19th century, one of the locomotives, I can't remember, the Virginia and Truckee, locomotive number 22. They ran that down, and then they ran several other trains leading to diesel. And they had like the history of railroading right there in front of you. And here with Fletcher Boron, the mayor, that is George Raft, Cecil B. DeMille, Cecil's wife, and Lloyd Nolan. That they were all there for the publicity of the opening of Union Station. Now, when stars were going to travel, they just didn't get on the train. They had to be publicized, getting on what train? So here is Tom Hicks with his wife Victoria Ford and daughter Thomasina arriving in 1925 on the California Limited at the Santa Fe La Grande Station in Los Angeles. And here we have Joan Crawford arrived at La Grande Station in downtown Los Angeles, 1938. Crawford traveled on the Santa Fe Super Chief from Chicago. All of this, of course, was advertised. I like how she's smiling, being helped off. Then we have at the end of the train, we have the drum. And we have these drums here, which some of them were lit, some were not lit. But the studios decided to use them to advertise the trains at the end of their films. So this is one of them. This is Viola Dana posing. Publicity cameras reports 1924 on the Southern Pacific Golden State train to promote her latest film, Along Came Ruth. Okay, then this one was sent to Susanna Pass near Chatsworth. This was the observation car number 1722 being used in the FBO, Film Booking Office's production of Breed of the Sunset, starring Bob Steele. Next one, Charlie Chaplin. Charlie leaves Los Angeles from Union Pacific, Los Angeles Limited, shown pulling out of Central Station in 1921. The train went to Chicago, where Chaplin would have changed trains for New York City, right? All this written up as I'm telling you this. And this is amazing. They actually put all this equipment on the back of on this observation thing. Giant lights, camera. These are giant lights. These are this big. They managed somehow for June Moon in 1931. And there's the Squaw Man. Remember the Squaw Man? When the Squaw Man was being made, there were scenes at a train station. Matter of fact, a lot of the scenes was taking place as a it's sort of like a saloon and a train station all in one. And they rented the gravel trains in at the time in Roscoe, California, which was all gravel pits, still is, and later became known as Sun Valley. Well, all that is the river that comes down the help me out here. What river comes down the northeast valley is the Little Tahunga River. God. sometimes it comes a little late. The Tonga River deposited for 10,000 years or a million years gravel through that whole area of the San Fernando Valley, and they've been digging it out. So where do you think the gravel came from to build the Pacific Electric and all the railroading in Southern California? From the Sun Valley and also from the gravel pits in Griffith Park, which is now Bronson Canyon. The Bronson Canyon Caves actually was
Like
a
there.
quarry for gravel. So the railroads, development of Los Angeles, movies, all connected. And
I used to
the
live right
other
there.
end pieces here of my book. And that's it. Okay, now, questions?
So
Where
amazing.
was Chaplin's, the general film?
No, that was Keaton, and that was in, that was up in Oregon at
Okay,
the town escapes me at the moment.
but not, okay.
He did a lot of Liverpool too.
Yeah, but up in there, that's where the locomotive goes over the side, off the trestle.
You don't
and
get the
passes.
lights.
Oh, it'll come to me in a minute, but that's
Fine.
in Oregon. And that's a tourist
One time.
attraction,
Should we
I
see
might
him now?
add, in Oregon up there. People go up there just to see where the train went off. I still remember Buster Keaton. And by the way, if you haven't seen The General, you must see The General. It is
Just
a masterpiece, and of course, stars railroading. More questions? All right, well, anyway,
Does your bison site have Niles Canyon, any stuff out of Niles?
well, I just came down from there last week. There's the Niles S&A Film Museum in Niles, California, which is Fremont in the Bay Area. That is where the Niles Canyon Railway came through. Remember when Promontory Point, they came through into California and they went right down, right to San Francisco. Niles Canyon was one of the earliest conduits in which they went right through. It's still there. We have historic train rides. They still have 2 steam trains, and I just wrote it on in May. But the studio, S&A Company out of Chicago, which was one of the earliest pioneering film studios, they came to Niles to make westerns, starring their founder, Max Aronson, who founded S&A with Charles K. Spoor. But Max became the first Western star in movies, Bronco Billy Anderson. Okay? So that was all made in Niles. So they hired Chaplin in 1915 to do 15 films in Niles. And Chaplin was there. So in May, we have Chaplin Days at Niles. So you see all around California, I'm telling you,
That'd be good.
there are these little areas which have great history. Luckily, some of these places still you can see, like Railtown. And you can see an active, they're actually restoring trains up there. You can ride the trains and all this. But I was up at Fort Bragg and on the skunk train, which nobody hardly knows about the skunk train. It was a logging train. I mean, there's other museums and other trains everywhere. So Niles is one of them, but that's where a studio was, an actual movie studio in Niles. More questions?
Question.
Yeah.
You spoke about watching a film being filmed out in dinner or something earlier in your presentation. You were talking about they're going to do it next week or something.
What did I say?
Oh, they have to put the ranch,
One of the ranches out.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that,
yes,
that
that's
did sound
right.
interesting.
At Paramount Ranch, which is, by the way, I'm selling my book. If you're interested, I have $10 off autograph. All right, anyway, yes, that is we call it was the Paramount Ranch screenings every year, but Paramount Ranch burned down in the Woolsey fire, but we're rebuilding it right now, and it's 2/3 built. So we're doing our screenings at the Gillette Ranch. That's King Gillette, of the Catalina fame, and of course the razor guy and all this. So his ranch is right across from the Fox Ranch called Malibu State Creek Park, which is at Mulholland and Las Virgenes Road. So it's Sunday, and we're showing a screening out there. It's fun just to go out there and enjoy yourself.
So you just buy a ticket and
Yeah, I think it's $5 or something. I think it's still $5. Okay, anyway, I'm signing books if you want any, and this is a great book.
Yeah. Yay.
Let me get my.
Ooh.
There's a lot to say.
I met you yesterday.
Your face looked familiar, but
Yeah, I was.
are you okay with being on camera?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all
You
right.
shot-
So are you,
shot
all right,
me.
it's
Yeah.
live, so you're being
Yeah.
recorded, whatever you're saying to me right now.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about the layout tours as part of the convention.
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I've got your.
You have my information,
Contact,
LisaKentertainment.com on YouTube, everything. Yeah.
You know, we can talk about.
The layouts, yes.
Layouts, and talk about, you know, just some of these venues too that
Yeah.
you were mentioning too. I don't know if you've been to
There were so many.
Paris.
I'm going to Paris soon,
Okay.
in a week, actually.
Yeah.
To the,
I
yeah.
think that's the largest collection of railroad, you know, live railroads
Yeah.
in California.
Well, Paris, hi guys, I haven't even seen you yet today. Yeah, Paris has a sizzling summer event in a week, which I've mentioned on my YouTube channel. And they have like a classic car show and salsa dancing and the railroad museum. So it's like,
It's the
it's
place to go.
I think so. I think it's a lot of cool stuff in one. So yeah, so I'm gonna check out Paris very soon. But he
Fantastic.
mentioned so many great places.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I wish I need to be
Yeah.
taking notes here.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember all the things. And Gillette Ranch is not too far from me.
They do a Halloween and a Christmas event at that ranch too. We
Okay.
went there this last year. They're just amazing with the lights.
I'm gonna write that down and the place on his hat.
I have a
Railtown.
Oh, Railtown.
Okay.
So 10
It's in
bucks.
Jamestown,
James, okay.
up towards
I
Yosemite.
think.
Rail,
It's
okay.
outside of Sacramento.
You got that? Can
About
someone
an
write that in the
hour.
comments so I remember?
Jamestown. They
Jamestown,
have live steam.
Railtown, and
You know,
Jamestown.
there's a
Railtown
lot
is
of books,
a state-
I forgot his name, who
state
wrote
park up
about
there, too.
some trains.
And is
and
where
films.
is it? He said that
But
the
that's not
chaplain
this.
days.
It's just what locomotive.
Niles, that's right. Okay.
What filming?
One of you guys recommended that on my YouTube channel, Lisa K Entertainment. You wrote down Niles, and so yes, Chaplain Days. Oh, thank you for writing that. So I feel like Chaplain Days would be really cool.
Quality that they.
Yay! Wait, I talked to you yesterday, right?
Yeah, it's just,
No? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I'll keep it on the face today. All right, was there any other place? There was so much. Like,
so many.
I mean, because I live in Topanga, so it's near Santa Susana. I was planning on going to a swap meet there soon. And there's just so many references, like Agora Hills, Chaplain Days. Thank you for writing that down.
Yeah, in Santa Susana, there's the restored station they moved from
Okay.
from Chatsworth, and then they also have a model railroad club, the Santa Susana Model Railroad Club.
That's who I'm planning on
And then they have a
visiting.
swap meet there as well during that.
Have you been to that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a
I
great
think
place.
it's in a couple weeks. Yeah, I think you guys, I've mentioned LisaKentertainment.com/YouTube. There's a long list of recommended places to visit, train related, really around the world. Yes, Santa Susana. And on that list, as well as one of my recent conductors chats, I mentioned the Santa Susana swap meet because I'm planning on going to that. It's the morning.
James is.
It's like in 3 weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks
It's great.
on a Saturday morning. So that's the plan. I think it's 9 to noon.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with
I
a
owe
lot
you
of
10.
Thank you so much.
model railroad clubs and individual homes. So that's why I wanted to
That's what- yeah, yeah.
contact you,
Okay.
see if there's things that you
Remember how
can
much I
get
owe?
Yeah,
access
so-
to that'd probably be hard to get to that aren't always open.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm happy to help.
Tom Selinsky.
Yeah.
Tom
Yeah.
Selinsky. All right, this is Tom. Nice to meet you again.
Same here.
Yay, and you guys
Thanks
meet
for
Tom.
doing this. too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
cool
yeah,
you got the railroad.
Yeah, well, especially like all these references to the film industry for me was really interesting. Even like seeing that still photography, the set, the on location still, where he's like, oh, I've got the shot of them actually filming, and then the shot that was taken, because I do set still photography as well. So like that was cool, and then I worked on so many of the studios he talked about. I know I was talking to you sitting there, so I was just like, oh yeah. I've been there, Sunset and Gower, and
My wife used to work at Paramount and run the whole facility
really,
for
oh my
Paramount.
God, I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Paramount is beautiful, and there's a theater there, and I've done still photography there. Yeah, there was a lot of cool, and there's the cemetery now at Forest Lawn, so it's just like picturing,
There's a lot.
LA
Are you
of
familiar
today.
with the Henry Huntington and the story of the red car and how it developed?
What change do you
So
have?
Oops, sorry.
he mentioned it about the story of real estate. And so Henry Huntington was the son of Hollis Huntington, who was part of the big Union Pacific, the building of those transcontinental railroad. So Henry was one of the nephews, I think, not sons. But he basically took all these independent trolley systems and put them together into the Pacific Electric. But it wasn't about making money from the railroads, it was about real estate.
See what else you got.
So he helped develop the whole LA
Yeah.
region. Huntington
Oh, wait a
Beach,
minute.
named after
No,
him.
wait a minute, we're
And then
fine.
all the
No,
he owned
no, he
real
gave
estate
us
all
the
the way out to
exact
San
amount.
Bernardino.
Okay.
And so they made money by connecting
Creating the,
people
yeah,
to get
transportation so that
access
people would live
all
in that
around.
area.
And then there's a Huntington Library in
Yeah.
San
You don't need to do
Marino
that now.
that
Okay.
has a lot of memorabilia and history, and he has an amazing
You
collection
really
of
can't
art.
How do you want this
And
on?
it's an amazing museum. What garden was?
I was
You
just
need
about to
go
say,
there.
the Huntington Gardens are beautiful
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
If you're ever in the LA area, I think, a lot of people who haven't been here picture LA and just like concrete, etc., whatever, big city and a certain kind of people. There are lots of friendly folks here and the gardens are amazing. And, we saw in this presentation all this rural land and what it used to be, which it definitely has changed. But Agora Hills still is country. I just went to a party there recently, like horses and, the whole shebang in Chatsworth. I've actually two-stepped recently in a film that's coming out early next year. Anyways, I won't talk more about that, but like there's like a cowboy palaces there, like country dancing is alive and well. There's still like a very Western theme to paint that whole area is still, pretty rural, but especially when you go back to like Lancashire, Vineland, that area where Universal Studios is, those photos were amazing because I used to live in North Hollywood when I first moved here, and then I worked at Universal, and of course it is not rural. Like, nope. It's totally, yeah, that's all covered up, and that area around Hollywood Hills, you might have seen my other episode with the LA Steamers in Griffith Park, Griffith was referenced here, and that area is over 4,000 acres with hiking trails and Sunset Ranch and different stuff. So that's still fairly rural, but of course there's also, there's a lot of people living in the Hollywood Hills, and then down below is quite dense. We all know that. So yeah, so that was like really interesting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm glad. Well, nice coincidence. I ended up sitting beside you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah. You'll have to, my email's on there.
I'll reach out and then we can chat and see if there's. I'm aware of a lot of different resources around model railroads and live railroads in the region.
That's great.
List if you want.
I would love that. So I have on my website, lisakeentertainment.com/YouTube, at the bottom of that webpage, I have a long list of like recommended places to go. Some of them are places I've been to. Some are places I'm gonna go and do episodes and like share with people. Many I haven't been to yet. And so I would love your recommendations because someone actually just last night put a thing on YouTube and was just like, how did you hear about this train show? Like, how do you know about these things coming up? So I'm trying to have kind of like a one-stop resource. And especially, yeah, if you know of like a cool event happening, then like,
They're happening more than you realize.
Well, exactly. Every time I wrote to the guy yesterday, Marc, I think it was, I'm just like, every time I go to something, I get some awesome recommendation every single time, as well as the people on YouTube like commenting, oh, you gotta check out such and such. So, and then just from his presentation, it was just like, my gosh, I mean, you could just, spend the rest of your life going to train related.
LA was built on the railroad. And then we came back here, the Pacific Electric Light Company really helped LA develop.
And so
And
this
that's
is on
why
Sunday
there's a
afternoon.
real estate.
And we're driving through there.
Yeah.
Cars help
I
people
can give you an
get
alternate
from
route.
the rural.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just in Culver City at Ivy Station and did an episode, and that piece was definitely something I learned about the history too.
Story of the Santa Fe Railroad.
You're looking up at the sky, going forward,
And Fred Harvey, who was
and then over to
a
Golden Gate
famous
Bridge and everything. It was really
entrepreneur from England, who helped
But I couldn't
build
enjoy it much because I was
restaurant
driving.
where
That's
he
right, if you're
basically
looking at those
recruited
stars
young
in the Walk of
ladies to
Fame, you
come
are a
and be
tourist.
hostesses at these restaurants
Those-
to help
we
develop
parked
the
across
West
the
as
street
they
from
came
the
through the
Columbia
South
building.
into Los
Oh my
Angeles.
God, that's
I was not familiar with
Fred
that.
Harvey, I
Or
actually
the
have a
Rose
book I
Bowl,
can-
first time I saw the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
about Fred Harvey
the Rose Bowl.
and the Harvey girls. they were
What is
called.
it? I said, I've seen it in the.
All right, I feel
Grew
like
up
I've
in
heard the
Nashville,
term the Harvey Girls.
We have a,
Yeah, I think there was a movie called
A
Harvey
time-
Girls.
Okay, yeah. I'm like, what, yeah, I'm like, have I seen a movie, a play, a something? How have I heard about?
There's a whole
But-
story I learned about this last year.
and we do the wine tasting and all the other stuff, bring all the wine back and it sits there, you know.
Arizona to California.
Wow, okay, and you're in Pasadena. Yeah, which
Okay, how do you want
I
this
still need to
Oh.
talk to the guy from the, yeah. Oh my gosh, okay, great, all right, well,
Happy to
yeah.
be a resource.
Yes, thank you so much, I appreciate that. Yeah, feel free to just like
Glad you're
send me
doing
an
what you're doing.
email.
It's great to get the
Oh,
word out.
yay, yeah, thanks, this has been fun.
Right.
Oh my gosh, all right, we'll have to, I'll have to talk to the author here.
Yeah, you take
Yeah, yeah, see
I'll
you,
catch
see you
up
out
with
there.
you.
I'll
Yeah.
be here like all day.
Maury, how are you doing?
Oh my gosh.
Just fine.
Oh,
How are
look
you?
at this.
doing
That's,
great.
that's what it's all about.
After being done with all the
So
other-
I got here and I kind of had to just like
What happened?
jump on into the presentation, so I didn't even get to say hi to you guys. But I am here at the National Train Show today in Long Beach, California, at the Westin Hotel. I was here yesterday, so you'll see kind of several parts to the day. And then today I'll be here all afternoon and shooting live. So this space was very small. It's, I don't know, as you can maybe sort of see, you know, the lighting wasn't awesome. I had to make sure I kind of like sat in a place that wasn't gonna obstruct other people's views. So, you know, not my best camera work in the world. But I was, yeah, happy to still get to show you guys things nonetheless. I know it's probably hard to see what was on the screen, but those are images from his book, and he's selling his book. So you can buy, let me get another like shot of the book. And if you do reach out to him, you should let him know that you saw this by way of my channel, just because, not for any other reason. Hold on, let me show you the book.
This fellow
Well, the
is
books-
amazing.
Okay, they're a hot commodity.
Are they sold out?
At
the moment?
Yeah, I'm like,
Not sold out.
is there another one I can see?
He's got 4 of them left.
There's something else back there. There's another back there.
Yes, there's more. There's 4.
Can I get another shot of the book to show people and if you want, so that they know to come where?
You guys inside, you go back.
Yes, and can you tell them, I haven't,
After a few minutes.
I'm Lisa, nice to meet you. I'm sorry, we're just getting back. Can you tell them where they can buy this?
The
So
grandson
this is
getting a
Hollywood Trains and
venue.
Trails.
Oh my
It's been
God,
great work.
we mentioned it last night.
I gotta come down and see your.
Yes, you do.
I mentioned it.
Yes, let me know. So
Yeah, we'll
just
set up a
really
time.
getting
Still
going
running.
on it.
Yeah, as long as
It's
the
an
squirrels
old railroad
do.
museum.
Cool. I'd love to have you
Backyard
in Pasadena
around the
too.
state.
You're up there.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm only like
Cars
a
and
mile
stuff.
away from
But
Christmas Tree
basically, you
Lane
can get
too,
this
so if you're
on
coming up that way, we can
Amazon,
set up.
or
And
at the
Slim
Hollywood
Gage Guild is
Heritage
close by,
Museum,
they're open and
which
stuff.
is the old
All right.
landscape
So there's a
museum
lot
across
of,
from the
pretty
Hollywood
close by,
Bowl.
so we can maybe do a
By-
little train.
and
Now
other
that I can
stores
breathe a
around
little, I can
Los
think about
Angeles.
that.
No
So
rush.
it is a very popular
Yes.
book because
All right,
it
great
is
to see
you.
a
Great talking
combination
with
of
you.
the history of railroads,
Thanks for all you've
the
done to
motion
keep us
pictures,
safe.
and the development of Southern California
Yeah, I've
and
been
its
hiding a
transportation
No,
system.
it's good to keep.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
I
Yay.
covered it all in that.
Okay, so I know it was a little bit loud in here. Thanks for letting me know. So you can buy his book on Amazon, essentially.
What do you mean?
He said there's also, I think he said he started or is in charge of a museum that's right across from the Hollywood Bowl, which I'm going
you're
to
gonna buy
next
one.
week.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
So you can also buy his book at that museum. There are lots of places you can buy it in person,
I do.
different, railroad related places, but you can buy it on Amazon. So
I was giving you
that's
an
the
interview.
short and sweet version. I got a couple shots of the book earlier. I'll get another shot and put it up here. But again, thanks for being with me with this. To me, this was like very interesting. There were a lot of amazing photos, So I know it was probably hard to see what was going on the screen, but if that was of interest to you at all, I do highly recommend the book because like it was just, yeah, I don't know. I love all that stuff. So I'm glad we were able to
We were there, what, 2 years ago?
visit with
Last
him
year?
today, and I'm gonna carry on and see more today. There was a lot in the main room, at this train show that I didn't even get to. And yeah, so lots to see. I'm gonna pause this now and just like close this up on this book and this presentation about trains and trolleys in Los Angeles, and then I'll start again. Okay, bye guys.
Yeah.